One part of the record making process that often gets overlooked, and this is a shame because it's so important, is pre production. Pre production is the work we do before we set up the first mic in the studio. And it's a shame that people neglect this because doing work in pre production is so powerful and can make such a big improvement and impact on the record you're making. I'm going to share with you one of my most powerful tricks or hacks to do in pre-production that can really improve everything about your record making process. So I'm lucky. I love every aspect of record making, from the pre-production all the way through mixing and mastering. And I've been really blessed to have a career that lets me do all of that stuff. Honestly, the part that is the most profitable for me is the stuff at the end, the mixing and mastering. But my absolute favorite part is pre-production, that work we do before we even go into the studio. And if I'm producing a record, I insist that we get time and set aside time and resources to do pre-production. Sometimes with some artists, I'm in on the record a year in advance and we're starting to work on the songs and the vision a year before we set up the first mic. There's other times where I'm maybe flying to the other side of the world and logistics don't allow for that, but we always book out at least a week or so in advance to do this important pre-production work. And so in pre-production, obviously the most important things we're going to do are making sure the songs are in great shape, defining the vision for the record we're trying to make, and working out all of the logistics. But for me, that is the amazing time to get in, dig, and work on creating this vision for the record and getting everything in great shape. So when we set up the first microphone, we are being efficient, we are being creative, we're being able to work fast. And I love, love, love that stage of the process. But I want to share with you one hack that I really like to do when I'm producing a band, that if you're a producer, you can try this with your own artists. But if you're a band just recording yourselves, or a band getting ready to go into the studio with another producer, a really, really powerful trick. And what that hack for pre-production is, I call it breaking up the band. And trust me, I've actually been in some intense record making processes where the band actually almost broke up in the process. But this is something different. And what this breaking up the band thing is to break the band up for rehearsals into sort of small modular units. And there are two main ones that we want to do. One is we want the bass player and the drummer to go in and rehearse the songs together without anybody else. So just going through all of the songs without the guitar, without the keyboards, without the vocals. And you might say, well, how are they going to do that without the other instruments? Well, if the bass player and the drummer cannot do that without the other instruments, they don't know the songs well enough to go into the studio. So that's its own issue and needs to be addressed. But the reason we do this is to make sure that the bass player and the drummer really get a sense of what the other musician is doing and find ways to lock in. It's amazing how many times bands have just been rocking out on stage, loud rehearsal rooms, and they've never even noticed that, the drummer is doing like a triplet thing on the kick drum, and the bass player's always been playing this sort of swung eighth note kind of thing, and they are not blending at all. It doesn't mean one of those is right and one of those is wrong, but getting those two to agree, getting the drummer and the bass player to agree on where the feel is, where the pocket is super important. And my friend Benny Greb had one of my favorite music quotes of all time. He said, "Groove is a matter of democracy." And it's, again, not one thing, but it's different elements in the group working out where that pocket is. So if the bass player and the drummer rehearse together, they can really focus in on just making sure that they lock in and that they connect in a way. And if your drummer and your bass player lock deep into the pocket, you are halfway to having a great sounding record. The other half is to have the other folks, not the drummer and the bass player, to go in and rehearse together. If there's two guitar players, or if there's guitar player and keyboard, to have those musicians go in and rehearse the songs together at low volume. And the reason to do this is because it's amazing how often bands have been playing a song for a year in a loud rehearsal space, playing gigs. And then you get in the studio where everybody can really hear with a great headphone mix or listening back on the monitors. And, the keyboard player says to the guitar player, "You're playing the wrong chord." And the guitar player says, "No, I've been playing that chord for a year and a half. That's the right chord." It's like, the keyboard player's like, "Well, I'm playing a, an F minor there." And guitar player's like, "No, that's F major there." And because they've just been rocking out really loud, a lot of times they don't hear that. And it might even be just something more subtle in a way, like, "Hey, is that a major seventh you're playing or a minor seventh?" But it's incredible how often bands that have been playing a song for a long time get in the studio and they actually don't know what the other musicians are playing. So if you have the two guitar players, a guitar player or keyboard player, or any harp player, harmonium, whatever you've got going on, have those musicians work together in a quiet setting so they can really hear what all of the other musicians are playing, and they can see if they are doing things that actually are competing with each other rather than being complementary. And again, you can also do that with the vocalist as part of it too, but it's a good part to break the band into different units and have different people rehearse together so they really know what their parts are and how they are interacting with the other members of the band. One quick note before I say the last thing, and that is May 3rd through 8th, Capon Springs, West Virginia, just less than 2 hours from Washington, D.C. I am hosting the Kakapehan Recording and Songwriting Retreat, an all-inclusive retreat with fantastic mentors from around the country. It's a cool, all-inclusive event in a beautiful mountain resort in the mountains of West Virginia, and registration is open, so go to kakapehan.com if you want to have more info about that. The last thing that I recommend is actually, if you are a big, loud, heavy band or a big, loud, funky band or anything, to do some rehearsals at low volume. Because even if you are a super loud, heavy, energetic band, do some rehearsals at low volume. And it's all for this same reason. When you work at lower volumes, clean up the guitars a little bit, you have a chance to really hear what the other musicians are playing. And you can adjust to make sure that everybody is tight and grooving together. Because if the band is tight and grooving together, most of the record is done. The mix is easy. And again, stripping things down gives everybody a chance to hear what all the musicians are doing. And this is really important. If you need to have a fight or an argument about what that should be, you are not doing it sitting in some studio paying $100 an hour to have an argument when you could do that free in your rehearsal space. And so when you're in the studio, you can start knocking out songs fast and efficiently. So that's it. I hope this was a little bit helpful. And again, I am Ronan Chris Murphy, and feel free to subscribe and all that kind of good stuff. But and I hope I see you at Kakapehan in early May. All right, see ya.